Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Show Up with Sarah. I am very happy to be interviewing a very close friend of mine. I have known him now for a year or 2 years,
Is it two?
coming up on 2 years. His name is William Spencer, and the only reason why I'm friends with him is because he has the same name as my grandfather, which makes him very cool. But he's also pretty cool, I guess, because he is a skateboard ninja, as he is affectionately called. He's a professional stuntman. Currently, he is going crazy with his promotion of Spiderman because he was the stunt guy for a Spiderman, one of the Spider-Mans, right? And then I feel so bad because I have not seen. I don't think I've seen it. Anyway, let me finish with this
You
intro.
haven't seen any of them. Go on.
and then yeah, well, that's really about it. He's popular in Thrasher. He's popular in Denver. He's popular wherever a skateboard exists. Please welcome William Spencer.
Thank you. I appreciate that intro. I appreciate
know.
Yeah, well, no, it's always cool to hear your perspective of it, because you feel how you feel about what you've done. And then when you say stuff like that, I'm like, oh yeah, that does sound nicer than I make it sound when I say it.
I do know. So you were the stuntman for Andrew Garfield.
Yeah, I was. And what's funny is in the bigger scope of all of it is that we literally, like, it had been 7 years since I had done the last movie, which was The Amazing Spider-Man 2, that they took the suits from that movie and were like, we're just going to keep these in a warehouse somewhere. We're not going to make any new suits for No Way Home because they found out, all right, him and Toby are going to be in it. So we want you two fellas to like lose no weight, gain no weight for 7 years, stay exactly as you are. And then we're going to trust these really old zippers to put you back in those suits and have a lady do a rosary and pray every time before you go on set to see if the zippers will zip or break or not.
Were you the exact same size?
Yeah, surprisingly, yeah. But what was funny is the lady who made the suits is such a cute, like, Vietnamese lady, like just grandma type,
Yeah.
And she was like, I was like, and of course, big surprise, she looks the same, but she's like, oh my gosh, you still fit in the suits. And I was like, yes, but I feel like I'm letting you down somehow because you're so surprised.
She probably was just. I mean, like, yeah, she probably assumed you were going to like get bigger, or I don't even know.
Yeah.
Well, not smaller.
Like, do anything. Anything. Yeah. So it was cool. Yeah, that's kind of the crazy crux of that, though, that they were like, hey, this movie is a big deal. Those suits, though, that we could remake for you guys so they actually work.
Yeah, that's past the budget.
Yeah.
So yeah, as I was saying, I actually have not seen any of the Spider-Mans. Well, no, I take that back. I saw Tobey Maguire
Yeah.
because
What have
I
you
feel
have
like
you seen
everybody
all
has
of
seen him.
those?
Huh?
Have you seen all of his movies?
I don't
Toby?
know.
Okay.
Probably, but I mean, I feel like Toby's were like 2000,
Whoa.
2001, 2002. I don't know.
Like, just be kind to
I
him.
mean, if it makes me feel old because like I'm like, oh, I watched it, and then I'm like, when did I watch it even? Like
Yeah.
when I was a wee tiny child in the 80s. I'm like, no, it probably was like in the 00s, and I just feel old.
Yeah, I do think with those movies, though, the way that Sam Raimi made them, they're kind of like when Tim Burton made the Batman movies, where they're classic enough that they
Yeah,
just kind of exist, and there's not a clear point in time that you're like, oh, this is when they came out, because they're just classic.
yeah, this is true actually, because
Yeah.
Toby is the one that did the upside down kiss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I saw that one.
I'll
That
bet you
one
did.
was
Every
cathartic.
girl everywhere is like, those other movies, there was some fighting, but let me tell you,
Like
upside
the
down, that's the
so
one.
as like honestly, as and obviously we have other friends, but whenever like a friend is like, oh, I haven't seen those at all, are you like, well, go freaking watch it then, like I'm in it, or do you not care?
Mm,
Be honest.
it's such an interesting question because for me, making those movies, like just being a part of it at all.
Mhm.
And the way that I got to even, it was like kind of a like freaking rarest version of someone like getting on a movie, that I was just happy to be there. The results of like it, like how the movies came out, like, oh, these movies are really good, you got to go see it. That wasn't a concern of mine at all, because I was just thinking, you know what's sick is being on that movie. Like, not like imagine just missing it altogether or not getting to do it. So that when people like, dude, I should totally watch it, I'm like, yeah, or not, I don't care, because it can't change my experience because I already did it, you know.
You're very mature. I feel like I would force all of my friends. I'd be like, go, just go watch just for me. Just be like, there's Sarah, and then you can
I
leave.
Yeah, yes, I think that there is a part of me that's like really proud. Well, here's what I mean, to unravel that huge ball of like how I feel, you
Uh,
know. um what's hard about the whole thing is that I'm very proud of those movies, but like a lot of my career, a lot of the things that I'm most proud of, people are like, yeah, well, yeah, it's good. We don't know the category or where to put it or if we like it or if we hate it. Yeah, I like that you're making it and it's pretty good. It's good enough. I heard of you, maybe. That those movies for me are just another time where I put in a bunch of work, a bunch of heart, like did some things that I was like, oh, this is impossible, but I'm going to do it anyway. And then it worked out. And then the clapping afterwards is kind of like, at a certain point, when it did, the clapping doesn't come that you wanted, that you feel the notoriety or the thing that you thought would kind of come with it doesn't, then over the next few years, you just kind of like stop looking for the clapping about stuff, where you're like, oh, whatever, dude. Like, I don't watch it. Don't watch it. I did super good. I freaking pushed myself super hard. So don't watch it. But what makes me laugh is the current events of the whole thing is people post appreciating it. And when Andrew shows up in No Way Home, and like everyone's kind of like, the emo Spider-Man, those couple of movies that exist that we're not sure anyone saw. Everyone who actually watched it was like, you're the best, you're the greatest, you're the and I think that for me, that's how those movies felt. I felt like we did a really good job. And then for whatever reason, and this happens to me a lot, and it's funny how this statement always happens where people will be like, yeah, well, you know what, man, it was just ahead of its time. Anyone that tells you stuff is ahead of their time and then they make it sound cool are
yeah.
people who are not ahead of their time. Because when you're ahead of your time and nobody gets that thing that you thought was incredible, that you crafted and worked your heart, like just to the bone, you at your core, you're like, no, we did it. This is incredible. I know it. And then the clapping doesn't come, then you're like, that's a time capsule. I just made a time capsule. And that is what happened in No Way Home. Andrew shows up in that movie and people could not have screamed louder. There was something about the timing of going, all right, those movies, for the timing that they were and what they meant, I don't know, but you're awesome now. And so it's really, those movies in a certain way have like showed me that sometimes you do make time capsules for the future, that people, as much as we like where we are mentally, where we are like with each other, humans, how they interact, and like there's like a collective consciousness, it's not ready for certain things. You can make the best thing ever, and if people aren't ready for it, it doesn't matter. It goes straight to DVD, or it does the thing where people are like, that's weird, no one liked that. People do all the time. Yeah, that's really weird. I really like that movie. Nobody likes that movie. And it doesn't matter because that movie went.
Mhm.
But later on down the line, it's crazy because certain things will make it come back. And I think too, with Andrew's performance of making sure, I mean, we could talk about the layers of that too, where he's like, when he did the first Amazing Spider-Man, he's like, William, I'm going to go ahead and just basically craft Peter Parker off of you, so I don't have to do a bunch of extra work. And I think you're quirky and you're weird and it's going to work for this movie. And I said, Andrew, you get in there, buddy. So on a lot of levels, when those movies didn't hit, did I feel personally responsible? I don't have to, because no one knew that but me and Andrew, that he's like, I'm just going to make this guy like you. And I'm like, he might be too emo. He doesn't like himself very much. He's like, yeah, it's perfect. It's like the comic. I'm all, oh. So a lot of that was a weird underlayer of like, wow, they don't like that movie. They don't like me. They don't like him. It was too emo or it was too realistic. And I do that a lot of times because I feel like the proof is in the pudding on what you make, if there's something incredible or deeply meaningful about it, that it is in there, whether people want to see it or not, too bad. But I did feel a little bit extra like, wow, we were too emo, like the teamwork or him deciding to like I want to make this character like you. I was like, that was a bad plan. I mean, I could have told you that, but I didn't want to step on your toes. You should make it like me, you know? So and obviously you know, you zoom out, you're like, well, it's incredible and flattering. He wanted to like make the character like, yeah, that is flattering. But when you aren't sure about yourself, and when people start making copies of you, you're like, I'm not sure if we like the first copy. I'm not sure we should copy it. Like, I'm not, you know, so that the crazy kind of rounding out this whole conversation about it is that when he shows back up and he's as emo as ever, and he's like a little bit self-deprecating and like also kind of like unsure of himself, it actually, in the context that it was with the other Spider-Man who are very supportive, him like not being sure of himself and like feeling like he's just not good enough, it came off like whoever wrote that movie was like, and please forgive me, whoever wrote that movie, I will look it up, but they crafted it in such a way that those insecurities and things were about as meaningful and lovable as possible. And so I thought it was very interesting to the timelines of the two movies that we had done that people are kind of like, yeah, I'll take it or leave it. And they crafted it so perfectly into No Way Home and put it in with the other two Spider-Man and their stories and them colliding. And there was a crazy brotherhood element to it that just made you love Andrew Garfield's character so much so that people now post appreciate those movies that we did, where people are like, I was always a fan and I was always a fan of you. And in 2014, I started following your skateboarding because of the, you know, all this like post appreciation that I just never knew as an artist that there was like, and in my head, there's a theory like, oh, you can make time capsules. You can make really great art here and there. And at some point, not now when you wish, or not now when you're like most insecure about it, that people will appreciate it. But a lot of times when things are ahead of their time, in the negative way, people will sometimes literally circle back around to be like, what, this is amazing. And you're like, of course you're beating your head against the wall going, so when we made those movies, like the hard work put in by the like Andy Armstrong and James Armstrong and like did all these incredible stunts that people aren't even sure how they happened. And they're like, not when you did it. So everyone can go, oh, you were wrong. Nobody cares about those stunts. But now with the new movie and the way that someone else crafted it, there's a mirror or something that bounces the original thing you did back into people's brains. And they go, yes, actually, we in fact love it. We love it more than ever. And he needs a new movie. And if I get one more direct message about making a new movie or being in a new movie, I don't know what I'll do, because I don't know, everyone. I don't know. For you guys, I hope they make a new movie. I hope that Andrew is up for it. I hope that he feels finally for him, he's probably like, man, I was trying to make Spider-Man and get an Oscar at the same time. Like, that's just peanuts to me. I don't know how he feels. But from the discussions we have, I felt like he too was kind of like, man, we put our heart into it and it was too realistic, or it was too close to the comic book, or it was just like whatever didn't work. And hopefully he has the self-acceptance now to appreciate the post appreciation of him, the performance, the whole movie. And he'll, I don't know, if it's meaningful, I hope that he will do a new movie. You know, I don't.
When you say that he wanted to do it like after you, did he kind of like just follow you around? Like, okay, so I obviously have never been in the Hollywood scene, right? But in like movies and TV shows, whenever they show an actor like researching the role, they always show them like following someone around and like picking up their mannerisms and like copying everything they do. Did he do anything like that?
So he didn't, but see, the story starts sooner, because when I missed, I
I was gonna say also, is that even a real thing? Like
I mean,
that actors
it is,
do?
yeah, people all the time.
Okay.
People all the time will do stuff like that. I mean, on certain levels,
Yeah.
right? But you have to remember too, is there's enough footage of me on film. Like the reason why I got into Spider-Man, because I missed the audition. My friend Ilram, who actually owns the place I live, he tried to get me an audition for Spider-Man. I missed it because I was back in Colorado making skateboard videos. Just blew it.
Colorado.
I told them to call me when the audition is. Instead,
They
they
emailed
called
you.
me. They called me. Yeah, they emailed me and then called me the day of the audition to be like, "Are you coming?" And I was like, "I'm in Colorado. That doesn't make sense." Anyway, so it was actually much after that he had, they'd picked another stuntman and my friend Ilram, and then they pick Andrew last. Believe it or not, they picked the stuntman, then they picked the actor. Anyway, clearing that story. Yeah, so he basically later on was training with the stunt team and was like, hey, I've been theorizing this for a long time because I used to skateboard as a kid. I always loved it. And I can just see as like a cool element. I think Peter Parker could skateboard in this movie and it be interesting. I really do. And in fact, and he's like, and I won't, and they're at lunch, they're all like between stunt rehearsals and they're at lunch on their computers, just eating food. And he's like, in fact, I found this guy on the internet. What do you think about this guy? He skateboards like Spiderman. Anyone? And my friend Elram was, of course, like, I tried to get that guy to the audition and he blew it.
That's a really big sub that Ilran was just eating.
Right? I always feel like, it's funny when you get on a movie, they're always like, whatever, we're getting a Subway, just everybody get a Subway sandwich. We don't have time for that, like it all seems glamorous. And then sure enough, Subway.
I like Subway, but yeah. So, and I know that like that's kind of been, well, from what I understand, that's like your biggest like feather in the cap, right? Like the Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, I mean, as far as movies go, yeah, not like skateboard notoriety or like other, yeah.
And your stuntman and other movies or movies / TV shows,
commercials, yeah.
What's one of your most favorite TV shows to stunt for?
You know what? For a long time, because it was so weird what they would have me do, but fun, is I did this TV show on Disney Channel called Zeke and Luther. And it was two kids that were skateboarders. And what's fun about it is like normally like skateboarding is very serious, skateboarding is super serious. Like people take it very serious. And so it's really fun to be in a circumstance where it's like it's not possible. It's like not possible to do. Oh, P.S. Last circle back to the Andrew following me around.
Yeah.
There was enough. My point of that being is he had watched me enough video parts and other things that he kind of went, hey, this is cool. This will work for the character. And then once we met and just talking to him and like another thing too that people do and then we can move on from it. But another thing people do on set is a lot of times when people are on set with actors, right, that they're like, all right, this actor's playing the president and then I got to stunt double him when he does a gunfight or whatever. They'll treat the actor like the president. And you're like, player, I don't know if you know how make-believe works, but he is not the president.
Yeah.
He's Josh Brolin. He's right. He's thinking, I can't believe anyone pays me to make believe like this. That's what they're thinking. So from the first moment I met Andrew, I was like, oh yeah, are you cool or not? Like, are you cool? Like, I don't want to, like, I'm from skateboarding. Like, you don't go to spots and hang out with people and do anything unless you like them. You just do not do it. Like, you don't do it. And so I think from that, the real conversations that we had about life and everything and what we thought. And like, even in the training, the other guys, and Ilram is very respectful and smart. And he knows when to talk, when not to talk, where you get me on my first movie that is Spider-Man, that when Andrew, I'm like, oh, Andrew, is that your Spider-Man land? Is that how you're going to land? And he's like, fucking, I don't know, dude. I'm trying to win an Oscar. I don't know. And I'm like, ooh, maybe a little more of this, because skateboarding, right? Somebody's not doing something right. You're like, player, you got to pop before that crack or it's not good. Like, what's happening? And I think from the interaction with him that was so normal, that he saw me for whatever I am and said, all right, well, that's going to work. Like, that's funny. Yeah, you're quirky enough. Like, that'll work for that character. We'll just do that. Because for him, if you think about it, it takes out a huge amount of work for him having to craft a whole new person.
That's true.
That's what people don't realize with that. He likes to craft a new person that likes this, doesn't like that. This is how he reacts to this. He sneezes when this, like, why bother when you like have somebody you're like, yeah, you treat me like a normal person on this set, this will work. Right. So that is sort of how that came around, rather than him following me to the coffee shop to decide, what does William like to like? He didn't, it's not, that part isn't true. But for him, he's a good enough actor and clever enough to understand the subtlety of who people are and then just add the attributes as he feels or sees fit that it's going to look good on film.
I like that.
Yeah.
That is pretty.
So there you go. Oh, to finish that up, it was unfinished. So.
Oh, no, I appreciate you feeling like wrapping it up with a bow.
Yeah.
And
Um,
so, and okay, and then, and it's funny because we've talked so much, and I mean, I've looked at like your stuff on YouTube and whatnot, like as just like someone curious about you. So I
yeah.
feel like I know a decent amount, so I like don't want to like ask questions. I'm like, I already know this, but I feel like I should ask. But I feel like I know. What is your favorite, like, I shouldn't say trick, but like collection of tricks, with skateboarding, or like do you have a favorite trick or anything like that?
Man, that's a good question. So my to kind of do two things at the same time, I guess.
Mm.
So my favorite collection of tricks right now is my new video part that I spent about 4 years making. Because before I really got into the space I am now, wanting to like self-produce a video that I thought was like worthy of what I am capable of, like really capable of,
Mhm.
not on set capable, or not like when people are watching capable, but like boiled down to the core of what like my brain can really do and what I can do when I know I have a collective amount of time to accomplish something, right?
Mhm.
That this I feel like is that represents the most of what I'm really capable of, given the right amount of time, energy, and just in general, like enough time to make the mistakes that you need to make something great. Currently, I think that is my favorite thing. You know, it represents like how far I've come. Now, in a general sense, though, I also think there's a dichotomy between favorite, that is like hardest thing you did, and then favorite things that are like things that you love the most, you know, because there's been a lot of projects.
Okay.
I did this project one time called Great Balls of Dodge, and it's about this guy who's trying to audition for a commercial, like just at a community center, like you do, like at a 24-hour fitness. And when he was a kid, he played dodgeball, and he was so good that he just never got hit. Like, I don't know why, like how it happened. He's not cocky about it either. The dodgeballs got mad. And so now if he is in real life somewhere on the planet,
Uh-huh.
dodgeballs are trying to hit him anytime he's around him, period, like magnetically. And for me, that is probably one of my favorite things, only because it's outlandish. And I think the biggest draw for me making anything is regular life, regular kind of stories kind of really bore me. And I think it's ADHD or something, but that is a very, very loved project because of the detail I put into it.
Mm.
And it's just a not boring situation. And what a problem to have, you know? So
What a problems
what a problem to have, because he is, and and it's awkward for him.
Well,
You
I
know?
mean, yeah, I'm like, you're gonna have to send that to me because I actually have not seen that.
Yeah, I would love to, because it's hilarious, because he basically, like, everybody in the audition gets taken it. Some guy is trying to like dodgeball class or whatever, the kids at the community center, it's all fun. They're like, all right, it's over. He tries to take it to the closet, and he accidentally shows up in the audition room, and just like havoc, just havoc.
So obviously, like you had mentioned, you have lived in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
You, and I know, well, I know that like you come from an athletic family, like you have the older siblings and kind of just
Mm-hmm.
like ran around the streets of Colorado being little scamps. Um, and what we've talked about and why I wanted you to be on the podcast is because um, I just, I really love when people are determined enough and open enough to be to have self-determination. And like when we've talked and when I've looked at other podcasts of yours and have done like research on you and stuff, it's very clear that you are like, yeah, I mean, my family is more religious, or they are more like, figure out what you're doing, go to college, this, that, whatever. Even in your relationships, you know, like you take a road less traveled. And I know that a lot of people can look at it as like, oh, you know, he's brave, or he's, you know, like, yeah, like road less travel or whatever. But I think really just speaks to complete like self-determination. And I think it's really cool that your kind of like career title, like sure you're a stuntman and you, I guess, can be considered a professional skateboarder, but what you've done with skateboards, and if that's wrong, you can definitely tell me, but what you've done with skateboards, um, obviously was its own, it became its own thing, you know, like, cause it's like a mix of parkour and skateboarding, right? And so for me, I think anytime I hear stories like that, like, cause what is it? The guy that I cannot remember his name to save my life, but the guy that did the first like comic strips in a newspaper, like no one had done that before, you know. And like, so I think that's like that kind of like root of like like self-determination, when you're just like, I'm going to create something that I really feel is real for me, um and no, but no one else has done it, so there's a part of your brain that has to be able to latch on to the idea of doing something that technically no one else has done, you know, like, and think it's possible, because usually we live in a world of like, you do what you have seen possibly possible and has been done before. So that's what I really kind of like latched onto with you, which I thought was really dope. And why I wanted you here, because it's like such, it's one of the biggest forms of showing up for yourself. Like the complete idea that you're like, I don't know exactly what it is. I don't know exactly where this path is going, but I feel like it's really like my path and I'm going with it and I'm going to just see how it plays out. So like when you think about that for yourself, like how do you feel? Or like if here's actually one question I would love to ask, so I'm going to do it. If you today could speak to the William of like when you decided not to go to college, right? And you were like, I'm gonna kind of go with this skateboard thing. Because how old are you again?
Oh, I would never tell you that. Yeah, I would never tell you that. No, that's gonna be
I mean,
you.
he looks
That
22. I
that
mean,
is
he's just
correct.
such a baby.
Very 22-ish.
He's older than
Very,
me, for anybody that's listening.
mhm, very young.
So yeah, like if you could have a conversation with little Pint William, what would it be?
Oh man. The notes he would have to write down from me. I think that first and foremost is, man, they're just wow. The like the list that went past my eyes, you know, when you're like reading what you're about to say, you're like,
Uh,
what? This, I think that when for me, the very interesting sort of trajectory of where things are going, like what's popular at the time. Because for me, when my skateboarding like came out, as it were, or people started paying attention to it, it was very much in a time, which by the way, I didn't have a computer, so I had no idea, but parkour or whatever was on the rise, urban gymnastic stuff. And
mm,
for me, in my mind, I had seen a bunch of Jackie Chan movies and action movies, and I was like, oh, I just like to do flips in general. I don't know anything about how that connects to anything, but I also like to skateboard. And as much as I love regular skateboarding, there's an element of it that's very foreseeable. You're like, I get it. He's coming up to a ledge. Let me guess. He's going onto the ledge. And that like intersection of like not wanting to be boring while doing the whatever at the same time,
uh,
I I sort of just went, hey, like this is what this is going to be. Like people are
okay,
like, oh, that's parkour. You're like, yeah, totally. It's
here's the thing though.
yes.
You can't tell me how you came about. You have to tell me right now, what is the
Oh, I'm getting
conversation?
there. Don't you worry. I'm getting my point being with that is giving you that backstory. And here's the reason why is that because of that trajectory of whatever it was, because of skateboarding and the rebellious nature of wanting to be your own person,
Mhm.
I was unaccepting of those two things colliding. For me, I was like, I saw Jackie Chan, a bunch of people do some cool fight scenes. I'm just going to skateboard in a cool way that you're not sure because I feel like it. What I should have done is said, when I started doing flips to skateboards that no one had done, and I started doing all these other tricks that I was like, hey, it's in my imagination. I'm just going to leave it here and see if anybody likes it, whatever. When I did that, and there's no blame on this, but when I did that, my older brother, he's like the skateboard mayor of Denver. Like he skateboards to today. He is as awesome as he ever was. Great style. He sort of like, it wasn't a shutdown, but he's like, yeah, that's cool, but you need to do some regular tricks so people know that you're well-rounded. And I think in a general sense, he's right. So if I could go back in time though, I made my first video part and I tried to put some regular stuff in there because I wanted to be well-rounded within skateboarding. You know, you want the respect of people around you so that because you respect them and you like them and you would love for them to think, oh, you're good too, right? You just, I never felt good at anything like as a kid. And so if I could tell myself something, I would tell myself this is, listen, dude, parkour is a coming. It's all intersecting. I want you to run with that. I know it's going to seem like, well, that's, and makes me seem unoriginal. And it does make you seem, oh, I do parkour, but now I'll add it to skateboarding. You're like, yeah, no one's ever had that thought. Oh, maybe you could jump further, right? But in my mind, what I had done is I'd added true elements that skateboarding had never seen. No one had ever done. I really did it. And instead of being entirely proud of it, I was kind of like, oh, is this annoying? Like, oh, do you guys not like it? Like, I want to be well-rounded, and definitely I respect my older brother. So I want to make sure that he feels good about it. You know, he taught me to skate. I don't want it like to be embarrassing. And instead of just going, I don't want to embarrass anyone, I should have said, oh my gosh, I'm having so much fun. And if you don't like it, you can suck it.
Yeah.
But at that time, when you're developing something brand new for yourself, by the way, for me, I like skateboarding, like stunts, whatever was gonna like develop. I was at the antithesis of just like, oh, it feels good. I'm gonna do it. No one's doing it. I may as well just enjoy myself. I didn't let myself enjoy myself in that moment. So if I could go back in time, I would be like, William, just enjoy it. Like everybody else, like you can be well-rounded if you want. You can work on well-rounded, all the skateboard tricks sometimes. But what you have to give is entirely different than that. Like you have a different skill set. You're, you know, like, and if I would have known at that time that my brothers and I were half brothers and not full brothers, even that I think would have given me an inkling of like, hey, player, you're just from somewhere else. Okay. You got the crazy stuff happening. I need you to just go with it. They'll accept it later. Someone will. I would have told myself, dude, when I made my first video part, it was called Burning. It was in the Burning Daylight video. And my brother had a part and Mark had a part. And it was the first time people even believed in me enough to be in a video. I never thought, my standards for myself were so entirely low from being bad at school, only being good at like playing with action figures by myself. And I'm by good at it, I mean, had fun and didn't ask any questions to anyone. Right? That's it. That's what I had going for myself, that I couldn't even like, there was nothing there for me to like go off of. So when they put me in that video, it blew my mind. Like all my goals for life was just to ever be good enough at skateboarding to be sponsors. That when that happened, I was like, you know, the ultimate like Ron Bergen, you know, I mean, Talladega Nights, where he's all, what do I do with my hands? I really was like, seriously, like what now? Oh my, like, what do I even do with this? And after that moment, the next video that came out that people really paid attention to was Colorado. And the reason why they paid attention is because I was like, well, I mean, I just fooled everyone. They think I'm good at skateboarding. Now I'm just going to make a video part that's super fun. That's like just something so fun. I'm going to go out and film all the fun things that make me feel good. And I'm going to put it on film. And if you don't like it, too bad. Right. And I really did that. And if I could go back in time, I would have stuck to that and been like, yes, you can go out to California if you want and like try to pursue stunt work. But mostly what you're going to be doing is being entirely confident in all your skateboard heroes, all the people in California you look up to. You're going to hit those guys up and you're going to go out with them and they can just suck it if they don't like the way that you're going to skateboard on those sessions. That's what I would tell myself.
I like that.
Yeah.
You're right. I needed all the backstory.
Yeah, because it lays out the headspace to tell yourself that, because if I just told you that, you'd be like, oh, thanks, that's really inspiring, William. You know, it's like, doesn't make sense.
I have actually never sounded like that. So I probably wouldn't have said that.
Yeah, but I was doing, but it's so fun to play the royal you know, the royal, like the interviewer that's like, I don't know what you made. You're like, oh my gosh, forget it. You know, because people will do that when they're listening to podcasts. They'll do it all the time where they're like, cool answer, bro. Like, you gave me no context. I don't care. And you're like, I can see why you don't care. Let me try to fix that maybe.
There you go. So So yeah, I mean, I like that, and it's, you know what kind of sucks whenever it doesn't suck, but it's always interesting where no matter where you are, and how successful I think anybody is, if you ask people that question, it usually is always some type of reassurance of doubt. Like I don't think I've ever asked people that question and I've gotten anything that was like you're like you already know you're amazing and keep being amazing, like it's always like, hey, like you're doing the exact right thing. I know it. I know you're not sure. I know, like, which I wonder if like in 10 or 15 years you're going to have like the same thing, like you're going to look back and if I ask you that question you're going to be like, oh, I would tell William in 2022, like, you know keep doing this, or like, if actually, I mean, going on off of that, is there anything right now that you are like, are you physically, because I know you just came off of the Achilles injury, are you physically, mentally, emotionally in any spaces of doubt or searching or trying to figure out, like, how are you feeling about what's next for you?
I mean, another great question that will only take 45 minutes to answer. Just
A
kidding.
minimum.
Minimum. Boy. I mean, here's the thing. The current events for me, the thing that gives me the most doubt right now is that two things. First on the docket is this video part that I told you that's taken me 4 years, 5 years. It doesn't matter. A long time. My last video part that came out that was like a real video part that came out was like 7 years, like a crazy amount of time. So long that normally, like with other people who skateboard, when they take a break that long from something, I'm always thinking to myself, oh, I wonder when that next video drops. And they're thinking like, I work at Sears now. It's over,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That I've sort of snuck up on myself and everyone with this, in a way that I put in that much time to, because people are thinking like, William, you do movies now, you don't need to skateboard. Like it's cool, but like that passion or whatever, that was a step in time. And now you're in, but for me, that sort of first love of getting to express yourself that much is such a big deal that I couldn't abandon it because it's too meaningful to abandon. But the current events is that spending that much time on that video part, putting my heart into it in the way that I am sure I couldn't try any harder. Like, I don't mean, could the tricks be better? Could they be more well thought out? Could they be right? Sure. But the actual effort put in and the true producing, going out every single week, looking for spots, like if I told you the stories of how much time and energy it took, you would be like, wow, for starters, you're crazy. Really, you're like actually crazy. Who knew? Who knew we could admit it in this way? And then two, like, I don't know. I've heard anyone work that hard on something that they're not sure is going to go somewhere great or whatever.
Yeah.
But having said that, the one thing that I do have sort of in my corner that's amazing is I have gotten the go ahead from Thrasher to put it on their website, which is totally amazing. That's the biggest
Yay.
platform. That's really cool.
Yeah.
However, the real pickle and the advice I would give myself is right now, I have had this video part. I've done my last trick that absolutely terrified me. Like every time I would go and do it, I was like, my gosh, this is one of the most terrible feelings to try this, be this scared every single weekend, like just every weekend into oblivion. And the people that are filming with me, I'm like, how many times am I gonna have to talk them into coming to this school, into throwing all this plywood over this fence, and to like sneaking in and making sure no one's there, and using the ladders, and there's a ladder to get in and a ladder to get on the second roof and a ladder to get on the third roof, like just all this, like just literally producing like you would do with a movie. That I think now I have been done with that for a year, over a year. Like I basically went to do Spiderman. No, I finished my last trick that I was like, this is my last trick. If I could just do this, I really am finished. I'll stop putting off like this video being over. I went to go do No Way Home, and that took me a couple of months down in Atlanta. And then this whole rest of the time until this moment now, I've been trying to get songs cleared for my video part to go on Thrasher.
Oh.
And it's so much money and all the things to like get it cleared to even just play on their channel, because they have enough people watching that it's a big deal to the people so I would give myself this advice, like, William, you put your heart in this project and you want it to come out correctly, you really do, you're entirely lost right now. This is probably the most distraught I've been about something in a long time, and depressed that I could make something that I'm so proud of and get caught up for a whole year by music rights on something. And I would just tell myself, like, dude, you don't know what you're going to do. You really don't know what you're going to do. But somehow later on down the line, when you get the right song, it's going to be totally worth it. And somehow all your time for 4+5 years now, you producing this to prove to yourself, not to anyone else, to prove to yourself you're actually good at skateboarding, that you could make something that was entirely original, your own idea, accept yourself within it, make yourself do all the tricks and be the flip guy, the guy who invented the flips with skateboards, be that guy and be him so much that you commit to something like that and make it your own thing. With all that in tow, somehow it's going to work out and it's going to be as appreciated as you think it is.
I want to go back a little bit. Because as you know, like, I'm an entrepreneur. There are tons of people who are entrepreneurs lately, or just trying to figure out who they are. And as I said, I mean, like, I think that your superpower is the I'm trying to think of like the right word. Let me think.
I have a really downtrodden way to say it.
Okay, let me hear what you're gonna say.
Too stupid to quit.
Okay, I like that. Well, it's like, because I keep wanting to say like your determination and self-determination, but like that sounds like insane. But like, I like that the fact that you're too stupid to quit. Like, um, when you first did, like when you did the Burning Daylight, and then you're in Colorado, and what you had said before, and you and I had talked about it, because like I recently published my book, and I'm like, yeah, I kind of just like threw it out there into the ether, into the space, and I haven't gotten any pings back, like, and it's no less that I published the book, but also at the same time, it's like anybody, like, and so, and you like struck up that conversation with me, and so you've been there, obviously, and with um Andrew's Garfield, and which Spider-Man is that called?
The Amazing Spider-Man.
Okay, and with Amazing Spider-Man, the same thing. So how do you get yourself to get up every day when maybe you're not getting that reception back from the ether, or you put your heart and soul into something, and it's like, oh, cool for you, dude, whatever. How do you even keep yourself in that space of like, I'm too stupid to quit, like this just is, right? Like, this is just what I'm doing.
I mean, I think for me is there's a huge dichotomy between self-satisfaction and other people being satisfied, and over these years I have just had to, because I thought, like, many years ago when Colorado did well, and then even In Color did well, and then I did a bunch of other like collaboration videos and things, and then I did something in the barracks that did really well, right? That I know that I have those capabilities to make something really great. And here's the thing is, I do have an easier task than someone who hasn't made anything that's gotten any sort of notoriety to it, right? Because once you jump that bar, you look over that fence, you go, okay, I know where I'm landing. Like, next time this happens, I know where I'm landing. But for me, actually, it's something different now, because when I really think about like what I have to give and what people need, like in an inspiration sense, that I started to realize, I watched that Rocky Balboa movie, and there's something about, someone in their prime, like you watch those Creed movies and he's in his prime and you're like, That is the most in shape black dude ever. If there's someone he can't knock out, I don't know them. Like, that is an athlete. That dude is a boss. Like, it's poor everybody else but him, right?
Yeah.
And that is cool. And everybody likes the inspiration in Rocky in his prime or whatever. But what's cooler is when the numbers are too low. And like when you see Rocky Balboa, you're like, this dude is going nowhere. And when people start counting you out, for me, for some reason, the likelihood, and here's the thing, people aren't even counting you out. They're just going, hey, age and time and like all these like normal factors we are all up against. That for me, that comeback story that no one saw coming is a big motivator for me, because I know what I'm capable of, and it takes more time than people think probably should be, and it's less impressive than people should be. But I keep myself in the too stupid to quit phase, because the problem is without that, I know so many people that are so much more talented than me. They are just so much naturally, just so much better than me at things. Like, you just watch the way they do it and you're like, what was that, 15 tries? And I'm over here in the corner and they're like, yeah, but no one's ever done that. You're like, yeah, well, if I were any smarter, I would be doing it now, right? Like, I would have figured it out. Where I keep myself in that space, because when you get things too easily, it's so hard for it to be truly meaningful to you. It's so unfortunate, because there are many things that I like have discovered that I'm naturally good at, and you can go ahead and count on one hand the amount of times I'm truly grateful for it. It's just too easy. You want some fruit, you pick the fruit, you eat the fruit. That's it. There's no, oh my gosh, if I could just get some fruit. Oh my gosh, it's too high. How do I get up there? How do I get the fruit? Is it possible that like once I get up there, it's not ripe? Is it poisonous? Is it none of those things? You go, oh, I want some fruit. I get the fruit. I eat the fruit. That the meaning isn't there. And so I start to realize that the meaningfulness in the struggle, however, I've struggled a lot longer than a lot of other people. And I have seen the other side of like just pushing, struggle, like so far that people are like, oh, this is into being nuts. You're like, yeah, but it's also into it being deeply meaningful, because you're literally pushing beyond normality. And when you push on beyond normality without in a way that it's like not negatively just crushing you, then you're already in a new zone. And so for me, being smart enough to not struggle, or like, and I've been talked out of like many movies I wanted to make and short films where people will talk me out of it or talk me out of this or that. And they're right, by the way. They're very smart. They understand the factors. We don't have enough time. We don't have the money. It's not going to be. But between that and then struggling, and you'll see it on Instagram or you see it on videos where you're like, oh, he's got it. He's going to get this trick. He's going to do this thing. Oh, and the footage is kind of too dark when I get it. And you're like, was that really worth it, William? You're like, you tell me, because you walked away and accomplished nothing, and I walked away and I did it, whether it's on film or not. You tell me, is that meaningful or not? Did I really do it for everyone else, or did I do it for me? And you start to realize that doing it for you, and yeah, we all want, because for me, the reason I want people to pay attention to me now is because I need people to pay attention to me, so that when I want to make an amazing action comedy, someone will help me pay for it. If I didn't need other people to help me, I'd be like, don't pay attention. That's okay. I'm going to make this awesome thing, and maybe you'll hear about it later. I don't care, but I need that money. So I go, hey, if you don't mind, I'm really sorry to bother you. Would you mind paying attention to me? And that's sort of where I am now, pushing to have the notoriety. And this year I'll become a professional skateboarder and get all those things, which will be cool, because it was always a goal of mine, but really it's in the bigger service of me going, I would like people to like whatever I'm doing enough so that when I want to make a movie, people will help me pay for it, so that then they can watch a movie they really like. Right. So for me, that's just it, is I keep that motivation, because when you feel like things are unlikely, they're unlikely for a good reason. And it either takes a crazy person or a person that is going, I don't care, I'm still going to do it, and somehow it's going to work. That's much more inspiring than somebody's like, well, I checked the analytics and we have this much time and this many days, and there's probably no possibility for that. Let's do like something easier and smaller and, just be easier to do. And it just doesn't get your blood going. Being perfectly on time and being the guy that's like, yeah, we delivered it perfectly in 2 weeks and everything went perfect. It doesn't get my blood going. It doesn't make me feel alive. It just makes me feel like, yes, we can all do math. Also, there's calculators and we don't really need to do it like that. And I think in the determination, keeping yourself in a space, whether you're getting the results or not, is do you feel alive when you're doing it? Like, does it make you feel good that you put out a book? Heck yeah, or else I wouldn't have bothered, right? It just would. And I always equate everything back to childhood, which is when you had toys and you were playing whatever you were playing. You do nowadays, yeah. Do people film it? Unfortunately, I'm sure they do. But back when I was doing it, I did it exactly for me, for my own satisfaction, because I like it. And so I try to approach every project like that now, where I go, do I want the results? Yes, you can help me make a movie, but do I really care about the results? Not really.
Here's my next question. Not to jump around too much, but I just I really want to know the answers to these questions. And I like what you just said. Like I ingested all
Oh,
of it, and I actually think I have to like process some of it because I got my wheels turning. But my other question is, and you kind of referenced it in a little of an analogy, but you're like, once you get over the bar, you see where you're landing, right? And also that you were saying with this last trick for this new, does this project have a name yet that you
It
can share?
I mean, there's a really funny guilty pleasure name that we're calling, which is Return of the Skate Ninja. Yeah.
There you go. All right.
But
So,
it's also, I say that because I obviously didn't give myself that name. Michael Burnett did in the magazine, but we're referencing it because I want to make kind of a cheesy, funny intro for it. If you've ever seen the movie American Ninja,
yeah.
it's hilarious. It's made by Canon, and it's like so cheesy. It's great. Anyway, so it's sort of in reference to that. Anyway,
Uh, thank you. So and you say that with the last trick and the Return of the Skate Ninja, you were like crazy afraid to do it, right?
oh yeah.
So that right there, like I actually watched a TED talk, was it a TED talk, a talk between this gosh darn it, what is this guy's name? Alex Honnold, the free climber who
Oh yeah.
did El Cap.
Sure.
Then there was a scientist who studies fear, and then there was like some other person, I don't know. And they were talking about like fear, just like the study of fear, right? And he was saying that he's like just kind of always afraid. And he's like, but like that's why I study it, and that's why I like make sure I practice a ton. And he was like, and so but he like the way he was talking about fear, he was like, yeah, like I'm afraid of a ton of things. Like people think I'm not afraid of anything.
Mhm.
And it's easy to look at the stuff that you do and be like, yeah, I mean, I'd probably run to the edge 5,000 times and be like, yeah, this is obviously not going to happen. And then just like sit my butt down because I'm thinking of breaking my head and my neck and my arm and my leg and my ankle and everything like that. So when you are coming up on a trick that like even you're scared of, what's like the thought process? And then how do you even get yourself to then go do it despite knowing all of the things that could break or could go wrong?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. I don't know if this answer is as satisfying as I'm hoping it will be, but I'll give you a very interesting reference point for it. So when I was first trying to film video parts, I saw Jackie Chan movies, I saw action movies, and in those movies, it's referenced that this dude is like, well, I don't know, I gotta, this person's in a burning building, I gotta get in there. Like that's the way it goes, right? You have the one try, then you do it, then you call it a day. That I didn't believe in myself very much, so that if I ever filmed something at all,
Mhm.
I only did it the once, and like was so terrified of it that everything else was me screaming about being terrified of it, and then maybe try it and then finally do it one time and then call it a day, right? Like
Yeah.
I was just so on the lower level of that because it was very realistic. Like I'm going from a person who doesn't feel terribly skilled at anything to a person who wants to be making stuff that no one is doing for whatever reason, and like just basically plucking things out of my imagination and then somehow putting it on film like a danged magician, right?
Mhm.
That's what you're going for, even though it's unrealistic. um and so I mean, it's such a hard kind of thing, but I guess it's this, is that I went about that for quite a few years, just pulling stuff out of rabbit out of a hat, somehow pulling it off. Everyone around me, like, they're like, man, you literally took 3 hours screaming at the top of your lungs, trying to like get yourself past your own fear, like just forever. You got us kicked out of here just from the yelling, not even the skating, just the yelling by itself. But for me, and if I had a time machine, I'd go back and tell myself to like yell all you want, player, because these people also aren't making what you're making. So nobody has a right to tell you to be quiet because they're not trying to do what you're trying to do. So get in there. But having said that, at some point there was a things started to line up with each other. So I basically was doing that for years and years and years, trying to pull it off, doing my best. And when people would see me and people will still do it at skate parks, if you see me like in general in public, like some of it is in my head, but a lot of it is I will actually like blend in. So there's a lot of people that are good at skateboarding and have particular moves and things they're famous for or whatever. If you think I'm throwing out flips at a skate park, no, ma'am. I'm not trying to have you know who I am. I don't care if you do or you don't. Those are inner struggles. And when I make my best art, it's on film and it's not in public, and it's not, and I understand, you know, there's a lot of like, with comes the fame and the notoriety of things that people like, well, I just want an experience myself. I just want to see you do it live one time because I want to be a part of it. I want to feel like I'm in that space with you, that I could appreciate what you really do. And I'm like, totally. You come here at midnight when the lights are up and I've had 80 other tries, and then you can watch me do it. But I'm not really like that, you know? And so kind of getting over, and here's what's funny is like people are impressed with what I've done, and really the physical attribute of it. I'll never know because I'm not in touch with my biological father. And so I'll never know what my genetic backing is for what I do. You know, some people are like, mom ran in the Olympics, you're a fast runner, big surprise, right? I don't know, because I went from going, hey, I do karate as a kid, I got some physical skills, I can jump on a trampoline, to trying to craft myself into someone that's like at some point going to do stunts for a living. And that journey was so fearful that every once in a while, I'm like, man, I can't believe I have not had more injuries than I have now when I'm that terrified to do stuff. But as I push, and it's the same way when you mine diamonds, you know, right? If that were easy, diamonds wouldn't be so valuable. So for me, getting past the fear is mining diamonds, because people are like, dude, you're terrified. Are you sure you want to try this? Like there's so many people better than you. They could probably do this. And then you watch the footage that I get after the million tries and getting over all the fear, and you know where diamonds come from. That's what happens. It just like, it's so much pressure, so much time that people go, man, like I thought you'd be more impressive in person. And I'm like, no, I'm terrified. I'm not sure I'm actually going to try this. That it just creates this other thing. And so what I ended up doing is after all these years putting stuff on film, people would meet me, be entirely unimpressed, that one day I met this guy. I was a judge, one of my good friends, one of the first guys I auditioned against. His name is Paul Darnell, and he actually started Tempest free running years after that. But he invited me to be a guest judge on a TV show called The Ultimate Parkour Challenge. And I had no idea why these guys wanted me to be a judge. I felt entirely out of they're thinking, oh, that's cool, you added parkour to skateboarding. And I was like, yeah, that first word you said's a little, yeah, totally, right? But I met Daniel Ilabaka, and when I did, I watched him. And even though, yeah, skateboarding, if you watch him skateboard, you're like, nope, skateboarding is hard. You can be that physically capable. Daniel Ilabaka is probably the most physically capable. Like if you were like, who's your favorite stuntman who's not a stuntman, who is entirely underused and undervalued and underpaid? That guy, done. Like, is he afraid of things? I don't know. I couldn't tell you, because whenever I'm like, I have pushed myself so far that there's a lot of like fear that's pushed so far into a corner that you're not sure that I have it anymore. And it's true from the hard practice, but it also came from him, that hard practice of his sort of example. But I will tell you this, that when I watched him live, and he had been practicing forever, and I wasn't into deep practice, meaning I was like, I pulled it off one time, I got it on film. I don't know what you people want from me, right? Because my standards are very low for myself. Like I'm not trying to master anything. Jackie Chan looks like that car tried to hit him one time and he did the thing and called it a day. I didn't realize there's 80 other, I just did not. I was like, I am a humble person and I'm not trying to like live here. I just want to visit doing this trick and then leave, right? I would like to continue to have all my bones in the right place. Well, watching Daniel, in his natural state of like flipping between rooftops and just like his ability to be so comfortable at such heights, like as you would think of like, what does stuntmen really do? And you're like, oh, that's them. Like they're this in your head, in your imagination, when you think about that, it's how they are. Now, there's a lot more safety and things involved. And there are a lot of great people now that are what you think of as like really good stuntmen in a natural sense of like on a rooftop. Are they comfortable? Will they walk on the edge? Will they do flips? This guy, he basically pushed me into a zone of, he's like, William, I've seen all your videos. I know who you are. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? You from England know who, you know me? And he's like, yeah, you train, you do all that. And I'm like, huh? Right. So I'm thinking, I'm sorry, what? The internet, what's happening? Right. And before this, I don't own a computer. I live in a car right now that someone finally showed me my video. And I was like, is a million people, is that a lot on the internet? Is that not? It seems like a lot of people are on the internet. They're like, that's a lot. Okay, cool. So Daniel knew. And so as he started like, kind of like, well, dude, I'm sure you know how to do this, or you know how to do that. And I'm like I said, my plan is to not die and then to put it on the film to one time. That he then created this space for me. He's like, yeah, but William, watch this. Like any trick that you see me do on film, I can do it now. And I was like, well, not right now. And he's like, oh,
yeah,
shoot, like I'm like, wait, so are you better than you are on film? He's like, absolutely. You probably couldn't capture how good I am. I actually do my best stuff when no one's filming by myself in a jungle. And I was like, of course you do. Right.
Yeah.
So seeing that capability level of someone's comfort, but also someone being that nice and kind about it, and comfortable being like right on the border of superhero, but like really humble about it. Like, yeah, I'm totally capable. I can invent all these cool things and do this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's unfathomable. That from his example, I started to learn something about consistency. And so a lot of times, and I know that we've meandered a little here, but to answer your original question, to get back to the original question, is on those days that I'm that terrified of something and I just do not, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm going to try this. Every time it goes back to, and Daniel would be like, listen, if I can do a backflip here, I can do a backflip on concrete. If I can do a backflip on concrete and it's the exact same thing, if I do it on a curb and I can land back on the curb, then if I'm on the top of a building, all I do is go back to my right. Can you do it and land in the same spot? Draw a circle on the ground. Can you land back in it? Yeah. Can you do it 5 times in a row? Yeah. Can you do it 10? Yeah. You can do it on top of a building. I'm sorry, you can. The rest of it is in your mind. That is it. I'm sorry. It's a circle on the ground. Whether you like, if you want to make it really, really small, sure. Wind is blowing, there's rain, whatever. But the point is you know that rain or shine or like, oh, I don't know if I like the ground. Yeah. But have you done it 10 times in a row somewhere? Yeah, I've done that 10. Then it's going to work. That is it. And so you have to, no matter what, you have to go back to something that is like, it's the equivalent of, if you've ever seen the movie Inception. Do you know have you ever seen Inception? You know how there's always a totem to decide if you're dreaming or not? That's your totem. If you spin that thing right and it like falls over, you're like, oh, you're in reality. And that's what you do. You just test yourself and you're like, listen, you're about to try this thing. You've tried this, this, and this that is like this thing. You know that give or take within 3 feet, this is probably where you're like. And so it becomes a little bit more scientific. What's interesting about that, though, is you sometimes will fall into, and if you watch my skateboarding from the time I met him to that next video part that came out, it was in a much more controlled, I'm trying to be well-rounded so the other skateboarders like it. And it was a much less fun video part, and which was a fantastic learning curve because I didn't really scare myself a lot. And I also didn't make anything super interesting. Right. Yeah. So it's funny how those two things can coincide for you. While at the baseline, that deep practice of knowing what you're actually capable of means when you're trying stuff outside of your wheelhouse, you've practiced so many things around it that you're actually shading in and filling in a circle that you know, this much of it you don't know, but you've shaded in so much of all these other skills that you're actually right around the corner from something that you haven't tried yet, you know.
Do you still scream before you try stuff that scares you?
It all depends on how scared I am. Yeah, because that technique, and I thought it was so stupid for so long, and my brother would be like, dude, stop screaming, you're gonna get us kicked out and da-da-da, and you're embarrassing me. And even if he never said that, his like patience with like, dude, do you really need, like, he would never say, don't embarrass me, right? He's not petty like that. Yeah. But in his heart, he was like, please just stop yelling. That if it's something that I really need, that I know I'm that terrified of, I will absolutely do it. I will just like flipping a switch, and I will. I'll be like, dude, and sometimes I'll say that with fear, where and I mean it. I'm like, listen, you do this now because you're at odds with yourself. Your brain is trying to keep you alive. The other part of your brain knows what you're truly capable of, and it's that clashing. And so I'll literally make deals with myself. And for years I've been like, listen, if I don't try it this time and really go for it, I will take all my clothes off and run down the street naked. And I do not, it is a cold day and I do not want that. And I will do stuff like that all the time to get past fear. Or I'll be like, hey, if I don't, like everyone filming me, hey, if you don't mind, if I don't try this, I have to punch myself in the face right now. And so I'll give myself something entirely worse to do, so that when you back up, your perspective is great. Then you're like, well, I don't want to punch myself. Exactly. So get down to business. Like, do you really want to run down the street in this neighborhood? By the way, you're by a schoolyard. Just so you know, that's sexual harassment. If anyone sees you, no, boom.
Yeah.
So for me, fighting that fear and getting past it, I just try to make up something worse to make this seem better. And when you do, instead of going, well, that's not much. Yeah, it is. Yes, it is better. And so I sort of triangulate how to not be afraid by that.
I actually think that's really fascinating.
Yeah, it's working.
Which I guess makes sense why I asked you to be on the podcast. Like, okay, so let me see. Oh, okay, let's wrap it up because I don't want to keep you too long. And I've actually, I really enjoyed this. So I always ask the same questions at the end of every podcast. Very simple and easy. The first question is, how do you desire to better show up for others?
How I desire to better show up for others is not making any promises that I can't keep. And in my best self, I always want to be there. I always want to do the right thing. I always want to push past my humanity of I'm tired. I don't feel like it. I don't, right? Because it's like you being better for other people, while at the same time, when you make promises you can't keep, you're representing just something just as false as anything else that is like, oh, the package says this, and then you're like, yeah, but it's only this big. I thought it was going to be right. I thought there's for me, I want to get better at not only pushing myself to be the person that people think that I am, but then showing up for people in a way that is entirely realistic for me, and being aware of what is realistic, because my brain is very good at imagining. For whatever reason, imagination and how it should be and what I want and how I feel, all there, all in just huge, beautiful colors. And then in reality, I'm like, actually, I need to take a nap. I'm tired. And I want, yeah.
Yeah. And how do you desire to better show up for yourself?
I think I desire to better show up for myself in a way that I want to be much more self-aware of what I really want and need from any relationship that I have, from people that I really care about. And also I want to show up for myself in a way that there's many things that I didn't learn in college that I think are very useful in the doing things for yourself, like certain steps, right? Because for me, what's on film is most important. Like, you can be the best, like you wrote an essay or you wrote a great script, but if it doesn't show up on film and people can't watch that amazing thing, then it doesn't have as much value. And the truth is, there's a lot of people that are just as good as me or better than me or whatever else, and they're in huge movies and they're living all their dreams out because they do the paperwork. They actually go, I'm going to get on this website. I'm going to register myself for this short film. I'm going to go on and I'm going to register this script and people can buy it from me. And I'm going to go on and I'm going to make sure that people know about this video I just made. And I'm going to do all the paperwork that adults do to make sure that people, all the things that you go, well, the proof's in the pudding. It's on film. If you think I'm good at acting or at stunts or whatever, you can see it. Yeah, but the internet is a huge sea of people just getting inundated with like everything. So if you can't fill out the paperwork that tells people who and what you are, you're not going to get it. And I really want to start showing up for myself in that way, because I think it's a overlooked factor that is entirely holding me back.
That's super fair. I like that. All right. When is Return of the Skate Ninja going to be available for people to watch?
So in my best case scenario, it's in the next couple months. Either I get a song cleared that I really want, I make the songs work that I got cleared, or thirdly, I have this rigmarole of trying to get a cover of the song I really want, getting it cleared through a third-party website, right?
Yeah.
And having it work out so that Thrasher will accept that that's happening and that's what I want to do. And then fifthly, sixthly, seventhly, whatever, my editor and friend Mark Spencer has the time, energy, and wherewithal to make it hopefully a masterpiece as editing wise. So I would say, what's that?
Oh no, I was just going to say, you're that's not your brother?
Oh, I wish. No. Funny enough, he is my older brother's best friend, Mark Spencer, and he just happens to.
What are your brothers' names again?
Shad and Bennett.
Oh, okay.
No, I mean, for all intents and purposes, he is, but just not on legal.
Well, because you mentioned him earlier. You said like, oh, like my brothers, and then you're like, Mark, like, and then I like lumped him into like your.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad plan.
No, I mean, I like it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So next,
barring all of that, it'll be the next couple of months. I'm like hope beyond hope. It can't go much more than that, or else I'm gonna have to do something pretty serious.
That's fair. You let me know. I'll come kill people for you if you need.
I love that. I need
it. And then is there anything that you do want to promote or that you want people to know that you want them to go see or that you are passionate about or anything?
Yeah.
This is your time.
I do. Thank you. Yeah. So my Instagram is iWilliamSpencer. That is my main sort of hub of things that I get up to. However, I have started a YouTube channel, William Spencer, that is just basically the runoff of everything else. So it's all the behind the scenes stuff. It's all the behind the scenes stunt work and funny skits, but like longer versions of it, and then not portrait. They're usually actually like, wait, what is not portrait? 16:9? Anyway, they're just regular looking video, because everything gets shot straight up and down now.
Oh, yeah.
So that's your place for actual like movie grade, like all the short films I've ever done, all the like funny skits I've done, and all the extra stuff that's sort of like, if you are interested in that stuff, it'll definitely give you, if you're always like, I wonder how they did that, or I wonder how they made that, that's a great place. And I do have a TikTok, which I will just send you the link to it. I'm trying to do that more. However, there's a certain part of me with TikTok that I'm like, you're always like, oh, this is how old people feel,
And I literally did like yesterday, I tried to do one where I was like, oh, I'll do it. It's like where it's me. And then like, it's me on a filter. And then I'm like recording and I'm like, how do I do the filter? I don't even know. And then I just like posted it and I was just like, help me, I'm old. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I literally, I don't know why, but TikTok feels very hard.
Well, not only that, not only does it feel hard, it feels confusing. And then at the end of the day, a lot of it is about taste. And I'm like, if I see one more person with bunny ears on, I'm gonna punch somebody, which is a taste thing. It's a taste thing. It's like not for everyone. But yeah, anyway, coming up, the one thing I do want to promote though, is I'm probably going to be making a short film with Andy Schrock that'll be sort of a hot rod. Have you ever seen the movie Hot Rod?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to make a short film with him that's sort of Hot Rod-esque, in that he makes an accidentally viral stunt video, total accident.
Yeah.
And then people really want him to recreate it live for a bunch of money. And he doesn't know how he's going to do it. So he hits me up and I'm sort of this like rogue stuntman from his hometown that everyone heard went to Hollywood, but they don't know whatever happened to him.
Yeah.
And so he's sort of this Jack Sparrow of stunts that shows up where you're like, he's not wasted, and we're not sure if he's like all there or not, but all his advice is good, and you're kind of thinking he's lying, but he ends up being like everything that he says, he can do it. And it's kind of like, anyway, so I'm making that short film with him. And then barring there being any sort of like legal trouble with it, I'm probably going to do a fan film, like a Spiderman short film. Oh, and it's going to be, what's cool about it, it's going to be very realistic, meaning with the multiverse, basically, at the end of No Way Home, Doctor Strange has all these portals and all the people who are Spider-Man are now going back to their homes where they're supposed to be in their universe.
Should you be saying this since I haven't watched it yet?
It won't matter.
Oh, okay. Just want to make sure. Because I'm going to watch it. I decided I'm going to watch it.
Well, here's the thing. If you know that there's more than one Spider-Man in it, you've sort of like, that is the main spoiler, and the rest of it is kind of beyond.
Okay. Okay.
Anyway, but
Yes.
based on that, basically what happens is there's a portal that opens and Spider-Man is trying to go home, and he arrives in this other universe that Spider-Man died 8 years ago, and he saves a kid in this alleyway. And basically the kid is like, he's like, dude, this place needs a Spider-Man. And the kid's like, yeah, it must be nice to have powers. I don't have them. He's like, yeah, but you also just tried to take on 5 people by yourself. That takes some guts. And so the whole short film is basically about me trying to become Spider-Man with no powers whatsoever. So, and basically Spider-Man leaves his suit with me, goes back, and it's basically about this guy just taking a beating, trying to become a hero that the city needs. So
wait, but then how does he get around though? Because then he doesn't have the webs.
That is right, girl. People make fun of him for riding a skateboard around the city.
Okay.
Budget Spider-Man. Yeah, and it will be. And what's cool about it is it will be serious in some parts, but it'll also be action comedy where all your expectations for Spider-Man, and then he'll be landing and stumbling, and everyone's like, "Oh, are you here to save us? We can't tell if you're actually going to do it." So hopefully, hopefully it'll be, because I really want to do projects like that, because I think enough people, even with the multiverse, people are going, "Hey, you're stunt Spider-Man," and that's okay now, because the multiverse, more than one person can be Spider-Man. We love it. We love to see it. And I want to give the fans that, because I think people do, from the comedy skits and things I made, people kind of like, yeah, what do you have to say? Like, show us something. So why not? So those are the 2 things I kind of wanted to plug, that not only plug them, but then having said them out loud, I want to make sure that they happen, which I love. When you set yourself up for that, like, I don't know,
keep you accountable.
I love that.
Okay. I really enjoyed this conversation, because while obviously, like I said, your stunt work and your skateboarding is a huge part of you, is like what I really, really love is kind of like the idea of how you get yourself to like hold on to this like too stupid to quit, or yelling yourself to death until you like finally do something. And before we do go, because I know I was saying, oh, we're going to wrap up, but I really want quickly, because this is a part of that whole too stupid to quit and overcoming fear stuff. You mentioned that you were living in your car. So like, how long did you live in your car?
Oh, I bet you at least a couple of months. I mean, I had to. The thing was, when I got out to California, I just drove out. I was like, oh, I got into a live show at Magic Mountain, a stunt show. That's a dream. I can't believe I got in the first try. That I had no plan beyond that. I had some money saved up from working. My brother had got me a job being a bar back at the Hornet, actually. And
right there.
Yeah, totally. And I worked for enough that I was kind of like, oh, just throw everything in your trunk. It'll all work out. That when I got out there, I didn't realize that there's a roster, meaning you can be as good as you want or whatever at it, but people don't care, because whoever got there before you is going to work all summer and you're not. And so I went from like, I was living in my car while training for the show, and they pay you for a while, a few weeks at least. That after that, I was kind of like, wait, so like, I'll just wait for you guys to call me and then I'll do the show and have money. And then they never called. And so I just,
that is interesting.
Longer and longer, where I was like, oh, I guess I live here now, like in this parking lot, and obviously I knew the right gas stations to brush your teeth and to like be able to do a few things. But I had friends that lived, the problem was I was in Santa Clarita, which is pretty far north, of LA, that I had people around, but I had like friends of friends, like my friend Ben Kutzko would let me stay with him. But I also like, the gas to get there was too expensive, where it just didn't make sense to be able to. And he was a friend of a friend, where I was like, this poor guy doesn't know me. And now I'm the ultimate couch driver. Yeah, it's fine. So it was pretty dire, but at the same time, there's a lot of people that like probably had better plans than me. I just could not, in California, I could not find a regular job. Like Ben Kutzko would try and get me job bar backing at like the Standard Hotel downtown, and certain places that I had all these ins, and no one would hire me. Like, just, they would not. In California, I'd be like, all right, well, I'll just get a regular job and like keep it put. No, like no regular, like no matter what I did, I could not find a regular job. So I would then live in my car and then bounce back and forth and go back to Colorado and do landscaping with my brother, save up money, and then just come back and try to keep the dream going, you know. So
Just too stupid to quit. I like it.
too stupid to quit.
And now look at you.
Yeah, look at me now. My hair looks so nice.
Look at me now.
It's hilarious. It is funny though. The tropes of success, of what it means to certain people, you know.
Well, it's like, I think I recently read it. Someone was like, the showed up with $2 in your bank account, living in your car and working odd jobs is only beautiful if then you are become successful, but it's not beautiful and people will judge you when before that happens.
Oh yeah.
Which I think
Oh yeah.
only like reinforces everything we've been talking about, the idea of like, you know, like wherever you are right now in your journey, whether it's physical, whether it's starting a business, writing a book, whatever it could be, it's not bad right now. You're just doing exactly what you feel called to do and what's right for you.
Yeah.
And whoever is judging you today is also going to be the person like later that's going to be like, yeah, I mean, that book was just like ahead of its time. I was there, I guess, when it happened. And then,
you know what? You know when you're a really good person though, is all those people that you treated you that badly along the way, that you're still nice to them when they hit you up next, because I have struggled with that.
So thank you, William. Thank you so much for being a guest on my podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, giving me your time and insight and just sharing yourself. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. It was I mean, I feel like all of our talks are awesome, but it's fun to get into specific details about the past that otherwise, you know, I can't talk to you all night. Like this poor lady needs to go to sleep. So it's nice to have a reason to kind of like hash that stuff out a little more. So
Well, thank you.
Yeah.